Should a Christian apologist get rich? Should they get wealthy doing apologetics? Let me fine tune that question for you. Should Christian apologetics ministries, which are taking donations from the general public, should they be paying their apologists more than $200,000 a year? Well, that's a good question. It's a question raised explicitly by the psychopologist in his new article, Prosperity from Apologetics. He goes through publicly available IRS records, and he kind of sets standard of $200,000 more a year, which in American funds, which I think we can appreciate all, is a pretty comfortable standard of living. And based upon that information, he says, here are the apologetics ministries whose pay scales are somewhere between concerning and appalling, that is $200,000 or more. RZIM, or RZIM, so the late Ravi Zacharias. Cross-Examine, paying out Frank Turek. Colson Center, John Stone Street. Summit Ministries, Jeff Myers. Christian Research Institute, Hank and Kathy Hennegraff. Answers in Genesis, Ken Ham. Institute for Creation Research and Discovery Institute, Stephen Meyer. I'm going to put it this way, if you're being paid more than $200,000 a year to do apologetics, I'm going to call you an Armani apologist. So then the question is this: should we be supporting, as Christians, should we be supporting the ministries of Armani apologists? I don't think so. Now, I'm not going to say what the cutoff is, but I'm going to say if you're making more than $200,000 a year from donations, then I think that I don't want to invest in supporting you. And if you agree with me, well, then what other options are there? I got some great ideas for you. So here's one idea. You could take a look at investing in my tentative apologist Kiva lending team. Now you might be thinking, oh, so now he's trying to get money for himself. No, first of all, just for full disclosure, I don't take any donations on Patreon or any other platform. I've never monetized my website. I haven't monetized my YouTube channel, and I won't. I'm not interested in making money and having more ads off of those. And so I support out of my own pocket, my own website, etc. And of course, not only the monetary investment, but a lot of time. I don't expect to get paid back for that. Full disclosure, yes, I make enough money from book sales to take my wife out for dinner a couple times a year. What is the Kiva apologist or tentative apologist lending team? Well, Kiva is a micro lending agency. So because big banks often are not interested in supporting entrepreneurs in the developing world, what Kiva does is they stand in the gap and they allow you to open an account, put money into your account, and then make investments in particular regions of the world. Excuse me. And so if you're interested in doing that, you can open an account at Kiva, and then when your loan gets repaid, you can invest it in another entrepreneur and you can continue to pay it forward. And each time you make a loan, you can join our tentative apologist lending team, and you just make the loan in the name of our lending team. Here's what our lending team is described as. We loan because debating the existence of God and the meaning of life means little if you don't lend a helping hand to those in need. If you think that's cool, then go to kiva.org and join the Tentative Apologist blog lending team. Now, another thing that we could take a look at is one of my favorite NGOs or charitable organizations, and it is not an Armani apologist. Rather, it is the Against Malaria Foundation. The Against Malaria Foundation, 100% of the money you donate goes to buying nets in order to protect people from contracting malaria and through mosquitoes and potentially from dying from malaria. The Against Malaria Foundation is a top-rated charitable organization with GiveWell, with The Life You Can Save, with Giving What We Can. And so last year, I hosted a fundraiser for the Against Malaria Foundation, pitting Christians and atheists or skeptics against one another, both in a charitable fundraiser in Canada and one in the United States. And I pledged as well that if we made over a certain amount of money, I would donate $500 to the Canadian one. And so this is what we ended up coming up with. So this is, I posted December of last year. I said a few weeks ago, I hosted a fundraiser on my website for the AMF. All told, the US-based fundraiser raised $660 US, while the Canadian-based fundraiser raised $1,250 Canadian, including my donation. And that means that we raised enough money for a total of 799 mosquito nets, which will save lives, which will prevent people from untold suffering as a result of malaria. Here's my question to you. Would you like to donate money to an Armani apologist so he can be paid $200,000 a year to fly around the country to suburban wealthy churches and put on a weekend seminar with apologetics arguments? Or would you like to donate your money investing in mosquito nets for people to save lives and prevent suffering, and compete in a friendly way with your fellow Christians and or skeptics in the process? If you're interested in the latter, and I tell you I definitely am, then please consider participating in our next fundraiser, which will be on this Giving Tuesday. So that's going to be right after Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, in late November 2020. I will be setting up another competition with the Against Malaria Foundation. And I'm going to be looking at doing an interview as well with the president of the Against Malaria Foundation to get his heartbeat for this wonderful NGO. And I'll be committing to donating at least $1,000 this time, $1,000 to the Canadians in order to try to help us to once again beat the Americans. So, of course, the point of this is not about winning a competition. It's about getting mosquito nets around the world. If you have a passion for that as well, then please consider joining us and investing in what I think is a real worthwhile apologetic exercise, far, in my view, far more valuable than investing money in Armani apologists who are paid more than $200,000 a year.